Yeah, so to talk about some of the things that you may have already heard about, because we did a few blog posts about it, but we just wanted to talk sort of about the journey that got us to petition creation. So basically, one of the main focuses that we've had for the last few months, like I said, has been on sort of performance of the platform and trying to optimize the main pages that your supporters are going to in hopes that they will be able to take action quickly, easily, and take more action, and make it easier for them to share things that they're signing or create petitions or take other steps like that. So we sort of started this by helping to improve performance of the pages, so to make the pages load faster. And page load speeds is, in my opinion, a little bit boring, but still important. um, there have been studies that say like even I think it's a tenth of a second decreases the number of people who stay on your page. Like even that much of a difference can really change the number of people who actually stay on the page long enough for it to load. So we've been working really hard to help optimize those pages, and we rolled out a lot of those changes in the beginning of this year, beginning of spring, I guess, to helping improve those speeds, especially on mobile phones, which are usually a little bit slower, and especially if people are accessing the site on sort of slower internet connections. So that's been a really big part of the work that we were doing, is trying to make those speeds a bit faster. And also instrumenting it. So as we roll out new changes, we can keep an eye on what the page speeds are doing so that we know if we're making the page is slower and if we need to optimize whatever changes we've just rolled out. So that was part of where we started. We then started running a lot of tests. So some of your supporters may have been tested without you necessarily knowing, because it didn't require us to track who they were. It's all just big numbers, how many people complete this action versus don't complete this action. So one of the tests we ran was around the Just Launch banner, which if you're not sure what I'm talking about, this is the Just Launch banner. So this, your campaign is live, let's grow it, that someone sees immediately after they launch their petition. And so this is the newer design. It used to be a black bar that was the same color as this bar up here, and it used to cover the campaign creator tools. So we decided to test this new design that's a bit brighter, and that also shows the other tools that are available at the same time as this bigger share on social media banner. And we actually saw that this new design increased people who end up sharing their campaign by 6%, which is a fair amount, despite it maybe not sounding like that much. It's a pretty big lift.
Especially because we were trying to balance also showing all the tools that the petition starter has. So we thought it might actually decrease performance. So we were pretty pleased with this variant.
Yeah, we were a little bit worried that having too many options would decrease the number of shares, but yeah, it actually lifted, which was really great. And so this rolled out, I think it's been a few weeks now. After we did the test, we decided to roll it out to everyone. This didn't actually change any of the content. It was literally just a redesign and then a change of what's initially visible on the page. And so that was exciting. We also did a lot of tests on what happens after someone signs. So that's one that you may have noticed already as well, where we've updated the designs, the pop-ups that people see after they take action. So the social share pop-up or the welcome message or whatever you've set up for petition signers to see after they take action. Those designs have all been updated. And we did a lot of testing on those too, some of which followed what we expected and some of which very much did not follow what we expected. So yeah, this is the importance of testing, is that sometimes our assumptions turn out to be completely incorrect. So one thing that we tested was after someone shares on Facebook, we have a thing that says like, John just shared on Facebook and Elodie shared on Twitter, and we have sort of a social proof. And that was a test we had run, I think it's years ago at this point. And it showed that people, if they see other people are sharing on Facebook, are more likely to also share on Facebook or Twitter or via email or whatever. And so we were like, people like to know that other people are doing this. We know, we'll animate that section so it shows that like people are sharing right now and makes it more obvious that other people are doing it, and you don't want to be the one person who's missing out. And we thought that that was going to be, a silver bullet. It was going to be great. Everyone was going to be sharing. And that is very much not what happens. It actually performed worse than not having those social proofs at all, which I still don't entirely understand. People like to know that they're part of a crowd, but they don't want to be reminded, I guess. So yeah, this is why we test things. And so we decided not to implement that particular change, but we've been testing all of the other flows as well. And that's something that we're going to continue doing. So even though we've run a series of tests and we sort of paused for the moment on those after action tests, we're going to continue running them and testing different variants and trying to, again, optimize so that your supporters are sharing content after they've signed it and are able to move through the platform as easily as possible. So that's all still to come. And then for the last few weeks, we've been testing this new petition start flow, which is very different. And so with the assumption that not all of you may have seen this yet, we're just going to go through it quickly and talk about sort of what's changed. And then, yeah, we'll give some more details on this. Sorry, I thought that, Nathan, it looked like you were about to say something, but then, okay. So the new petition flow, it looks very different from what you're probably used to if you haven't seen this new flow yet. So a few things that have changed are this sort of bigger section where you can describe what your platform is doing, how you're going to help people, why people should want to create a petition with your platform versus some other options that they might have. This is the way to sort of tell the story of both your organization and this specific distributed member-led platform. So it's a way of making sure that your supporters are able to sort of understand why this is an important step and why this is something that can create real change in their community. The other thing you'll notice is that if you land on this page, you initially are only asked for the title. So we've decided to change the new petition flow so that it shows one field at a time, hopefully, focusing people a bit more on what the individual field that they're responding to at this moment is. Hopefully they're not overwhelmed. This seems to be potentially what is causing the increased lift, is not feeling so overwhelmed by having a full form all at once, and also sort of guiding them through the steps and making it a little bit easier for them to know on this step specifically, here's what's needed. And so the content that we've been emailing about updating is all of the text here are all customizable. So we've provided default English text, which you're welcome to use, or you can really customize it. And I think there are a few places that most people are going to want to customize, and so I'll point those out. But yeah, the idea is that I can move through this form as a petition creator. And I should say also at this point that this is all also built with mobile first in mind. So we did a bunch of testing about who's coming to the platform, what users are, or what browsers are they using, what user agents are they on. And actually, we were expecting that a higher share of petition creation would be on desktop, but it turns out that the majority is still on mobile, which was a little bit surprising. So we built this with the mobile first in mind, and then also made it obviously work on desktop too. And so, yeah, so as people move through the form, they'll be automatically brought to the next field. It'll have additional, new content. The one thing I wanted to flag, especially for Andrea, Elodie, and John, is our default English text mentions Congress. So as people who are outside of the US, you probably want to remove that at the very least. But we're just going to continue through. So I can go through, again, I'm getting specifically brought to individual fields, asked, what are the specific things to do for this field without seeing all of the rest of the fields below it, so that I'm hopefully keeping my attention on each individual field. I didn't really think through what I would actually say, so we're just gonna.
One of the other design goals with all of this extra space for help text has been to try and, in addition to increasing the overall conversion rate, increase petition quality. And we haven't collected data on this yet, but I think we're going to try and do an analysis of petition creation moderation status as a signal for whether the petitions created through this flow are actually being created at a higher quality rate as well. Because that was one of the original design goals, is to have sort of more focused help on each field to help people think through like what they actually need to write for each of these steps as well.
Yeah, and the other change that we've implemented that's a little bit different and something that we've actually gotten like feedback on in years past is previously, after you finish the form, there's the review step where you're able to take a look at the petition and make any edits you might want to make. And the feedback we've gotten is that it's sometimes confusing for supporters who think like, I'm seeing a preview of a petition page, that must mean my petition is live, which is not the case. So we've changed this so that there's basically a single step to create your account or sign in and then immediately publish your petition. So I can't remember if that's the password I used here. Realizing that I should have checked that because I don't remember. There we go. And so I initially automatically publish without having that review step. So that hopefully will also reduce confusion for your supporters who are maybe thinking that they've progressed further than they actually have. And so this is the new flow. So it's, like we said, very focused individual fields. It moves people through the form. It's better optimized for mobile. And there's no review step. People just automatically publish and then see the rest of the options available. A couple of other things that we implemented as part of preparing for this change is, so the review step used to have the upload an image step that a lot of people would actually ignore anyway. So we now have a bigger reminder here that people can click to upload an image. This is only visible to people who have petition admin privileges. So either the petition creator, co-petition leaders, or you all as org admins. Regular signers won't see this. They'll see the normal, we don't have an image for this petition blank space where everything just moves up. But this is sort of hopefully going to remind people that they can add an image without it being hidden in the edit screens or without it taking up space during the initial petition creation flow. And we've also moved categories around. So I think, if I'm correct, that most of you aren't super category heavy in your platforms, but there's still the ask about categories, which is again, a sort of bigger reminder on the actual petition page itself, so that if you are asking people to choose categories in a more sort of important, like if it's more important to you that people choose categories, there will still be the big reminder on that page, even though they won't see it in the initial petition creation flow. And the reason that we moved both of those is because generally speaking, there are things that are a bit less important than the actual text of the petition. And so by moving them to later on, we can hopefully get more people to actually launch their campaigns, even if they don't have an image yet in mind. It won't sort of make them pause before they launch their campaign being like, oh, I don't have an image, let me try and find one. That's why we've moved it to later on in the series. Yeah, and so that's sort of the new flow, and the content that we've asked you all or flagged for you all that you may want to update, that's all available in your settings. So the same places that other content exists under settings, content, and then petition, start petition here. This is where all of that content lives. So you can come in here and you can customize any of the fields that are now on the petition creation form. And yeah, make them say whatever you'd like them to say. One thing that I would also mention that was something we used to get feedback about was not being able to change the labels of the different petition fields, and you can now update those, so you can customize the labels a bit if you want to change them around or make them a little bit more specific to your individual organization's work. Any questions on any of that? Oh, Nathan, you're muted.
How did this test go? Does this create more? Do more people?
What a great question! Thank you for that nudge. Yeah, so we did a bunch of testing on this, as we mentioned, and this new flow actually increases petition creation by over 23%. So it's been changing a little bit, but yeah, it's been over 20%, 23% as we've been testing it. So that's a really big change for us, which is why we are rolling this out to everyone on Monday. So we would ask that you try to get your content in place before Monday, especially for those of you who are not primarily working in English, because otherwise English will be visible. But yeah, big increases in petition creation. So we're really excited about that. And thank you, Nathan, for that very helpful nudge.
And we're also not done, I think, right? I
Yes.
This is like our first iteration on this new flow, but should we talk through some of the other like refinements that we're planning for the next round of testing on petition creation?
Yeah, so one of the big things that's also still to come, which we've also gotten requests for in the past, and I think given the way that all of you sort of work closely with your petition creators, I think you'll find exciting. So let's say that I'm going through this flow and everything is great. I know exactly what I'm saying. And then I get to a field and I realize I don't actually know how to say this. I'm really confused about what you need in this area. I'm not sure what's going on. There's a new flow where if I try to move past this, there's the option to ask for help. So this allows me to send an email to the main address and say, I'm stuck. I don't know what's going on. Can you help me move to the next series of steps? And so what happens at this point is that anyone who, so the main contact address, the email that you use to send emails from, so usually like info@ or campaigns@, will receive an email that says, you know, Christy +1 at controlshiftlabs.com, ask for help. here's what she's written so far. Here are recommendations. You might want to get in touch. You might want to ask for more details. You might want to set up a call, whatever things you want to do. And at the same time, I, as the petition creator, will also get an email that this is not the right email. 1 second, they're probably using the same title. Let me grab this one. I will also get an email as well. And so this email can be customized by you. So you can choose different texts if you'd like, but it basically confirms that we're putting them in touch with someone at the organization who can help them create this petition. And it also saves the progress that they've made so far. So even if I leave this page entirely, I don't lose my progress. I can still come back in and pick up where I left off. So if you get in touch with me and say like, great, it's wonderful that you're doing this Save the Whales campaign, here's our recommendation for what you should say next, or here's how to craft that language that you're not sure is quite right, I can then come back as the petition creator, pick up where I left off, and continue with launching my campaign without losing any progress. So the idea here is that we know that as people start to create a petition, some of them will leave the funnel, probably because they're just not sure what the next step is, or, oh, I didn't realize I really needed to think through a specific, why is this important? And I'm not yet ready to enter that into the form. It basically allows them to save their steps and come back to it later on, and allows you to get their email address really quickly so that you can then retarget them. You can get in touch easily and offer any help that you might want to provide. And however, this will also integrate with Fresh Chat is the other plan. So for folks who already have a chat box on their petition creation pages, this will also allow the ask for help to integrate with Fresh Chat. So that way you could chat in real time with someone who's asking for help on a specific form, or reply via email if you're not available. Yeah.
And we're going to A/B test this. So I think that's the other important thing here, is that we're taking all of these improvements and everything that we're doing as guesses on things that might actually help people succeed through the form, rather than like certain things that we know will, and so not actually shipping it out to everyone until we're sure it's actually going to be a benefit for conversion.
Yeah, so you'll definitely be hearing from us as well if this turns out to actually be the winner, and when we let you know how much it's won by, fingers crossed. Go ahead.
I think the other thing I'd say is we've been testing these with a set of higher volume organizations, but if you are interested in being or having your supporters be a guinea pig for anything that like requires content or something like this that will require some work from staff, we haven't been testing on platforms without getting in touch with an organization and getting them to opt in. If this is stuff that you're interested in with your audience, definitely let us know, because there are definitely tests that we can't run without help from more customers.
Yeah, and a thank you to TUC for being one of our guinea pigs. So thank you, John. Yeah, so that's one of the tests for petition creation. We did also, for those of you who are doing events as well, we're also planning on updating the event flow. That version is not currently on our staging site, so I just have this screenshot here where you can sort of see what this will end up looking like. It'll follow a very similar flow to the petition creation, where it'll show individual fields. This is the fully expanded form, so you can get an idea of what that looks like.
It actually doesn't, Chris. This
really? I thought it did.
No, we're not. We've actually made a really conscious decision that event creation is sort of one sort of single focused task, and so we're planning on, at least the initial version that we're testing, not doing the sort of type form style step-by-step ask, but instead having everything all unfurled to start with.
That was totally just a test to see if you were paying attention. Yeah.
at least the initial first version of the redesign that we're testing is not sort of type form style. But we're going to be running some A/B tests there.
But the form will be updated so that it looks more like the petition creation form in terms of styles at the very least. And so that's going to be rolling out, I don't actually know when, in the next few weeks, couple of weeks.
I think that we'll be running the first A/B tests of this next week and probably rolling out to a broader audience sometime in the next month, I had to guess.
Cool. Yeah. So keep an eye out for that. And yeah, I think that we're also, as Nathan said, we're interested in testing other things throughout the both petition creation and petition signature flows. So there will be additional tests being run. These are just some of the initial ones that we have in mind, but more will be coming as well. And we'll make sure to report back on any of those results if they are things that we think will be interesting for the community. And if you have ideas for things that you're like, I would love to test this, or I would love for you to test this on my behalf, always feel free to reach out. We're interested in doing tests. And so, yeah, we're always interested in hearing that feedback.
And we also have a couple of customers who are running their own experiments. And so like that's a more advanced topic, but especially for like the copy on the petition creation flow, especially if you're working in a language other than English. We've done a lot of tests. A lot of the experiments that we've run are in English, and so we've optimized the tests in English, but we just don't have the capacity or the linguistic talent to be able to be sure that the things that perform, the phraseology that performs well in English actually translates to other languages. And so I think that's another thing that customers may want to do or work with us to try and do.
Yeah, and we can, there are certain tests that we can run sort of on your behalf or like within the platform if you have things that you want to test variances of. If it's stuff for text, that's definitely more individual platform focused. We can help you actually set up the initial Optimizely integration, although I think that I will not be able to help you create the tests within Optimizely. That is beyond my capacity. But I can help you connect from the platform to Optimizely, at which point you're sort of on your own.
or Google optimizes.
Or Google Optimize, yeah. Cool. Yeah, so any questions on any of this or any thoughts or things that anyone wants to share on this? No? Okay. Yeah, so I guess for the rest of this call, we wanted to sort of talk about strategies that organizations use to help drive petition creation, just because I think that it's something where many of your organizations are probably doing at least some of these things, but you're probably not doing all of them. And because petition creation is something that most organizations are trying to either increase or refine so that you're getting better quality petitions, we just wanted to sort of talk through what we've seen and share some best practices. And also, if any of you have things that you've seen that have improved it, improved conversions or improved the quality of your petitions, we would love for you to share those as well if you wanted to share with the rest of the group.
Should we actually just go around and talk about, have organizations talk about, first of all, before we share our favorite tips and tricks for driving petition creation, what different organizations on this call are doing?
Yes, but let's expand it so that we're not putting anyone on the spot if they're like, I don't have a tip in mind. So you can either share a tip, or you could share, if you want to, a challenge or like what you're hoping to, in maybe plans that you have for the future of things you want to try, or you can just be like, I didn't have something prepared, skip me, but I'm excited to hear more, and that is totally fine too. There will be no judgment, because I, for one, am like always like, oh no, I didn't have a thing prepared.
So, because I feel like this is the thing that we as a software team sometimes struggle with here, is that we hear lots of great stories, but we don't necessarily hear all of the stories about how people are using the platform or the tactics that they're using. So it's always good to actually hear it from folks who are actually doing the real organizing. But I think the other unique thing that we can offer is like sharing the best practices that we've heard from across those cohorts. So I can go first. I feel like the thing, a tactic that I've seen organizations use to find people to start petitions has been Google AdWords around phrases like start a petition and running ads against looking for people who are searching for a platform to start petitions on. This is very hard to do in English on a cost-effective basis because a change.org and a Vaz and some of us and Move On are all bidding on those terms. And so I think the price per petition start is actually pretty high at this point. But if you're working in like Czech or Swedish, it turns out there's no one else who's bidding on those keywords. And so it can be a great, or if you have some other phrase that other people are not trying to bid on, to convert people who are searching for phrases like start a petition, and then converting those people can be a really cost-effective way to find supporters who are looking for a platform to start a petition on.
And I think that it's also something where, given that of our cohort, a lot of the people working in English are doing sort of in a specific issue area, that yeah, tailoring those AdWords that you're using to your specific issue area can potentially also.
Yeah, but tricky. I'm not really sure how to do that.
There must be ways. I think that there are folks who are doing that. So I think it is definitely possible. I just don't know the details of how they have set this up, to be completely honest. Go ahead, John.
I mute myself. Yeah. So we're probably slightly different from most of the organizations that we're kind of using it in the context of our movement. So we have organizations who are running the petitions rather than end users. And we found that can really hamper the quality of petitions, because by the time everything's gone up into an organization, it's been sanitized by committees to the point of being completely unemotive and uninteresting, but totally correct. And what's been really interesting in the last year and a half is us really conscious effort to try to reach down into the organizations. So looking at branch, local volunteer representatives, local workplace, and regions in unions, and actually we're getting a lot more lively activity from a local level in unions, and that then flips on its head the role that we have, which is a kind of a challenge for us a bit, in that we're no longer trying to sub-edit the stuff that's coming out of teams that have taken all the life out of copy. Instead, try and make it more interesting. Instead, we're trying to like protect the people who are putting stuff up that may not have been fully thought through, or and going to give them kind of tips on campaigning more. But I think that's where the energy is, that the stuff which could really make a difference. And whilst the majority of our kind of use of it has actually been pretty much in-house, in the really interesting things that you guys have helped us do, which really moves our campaigning on. That's the bit that interests me most, is how we take this more local.
Elodie, were you raising your hand?
Yeah. I had a question because you were speaking about keywords and bidding. I was wondering if we should tell petition leader to put the word petition in the title or in the text. I don't know if it helps SEO.
No, I think that the AdWords is it's using the words to send people to the petition creation form, not to send people to a fully created petition.
On getting people to sign petitions, I think that the thing that I've seen most is that it's really hard to get very meaningful traffic from search for petition signing, mostly because people are not like searching for intent for a petition to sign out there on the web, versus like I think that the other tools I can recommend, if you're interested in that sort of like SEO area there's a tool called Moz, M-O-Z,
Okay.
and the Google Keyword Planner, I think, are the two things I would use. And it's actually really interesting to start going backwards. Is like essentially starting with like, what are people searching for, and trying to find meaningful volumes of search activity, and then either and then trying to figure out like, how can we have content that like satisfies that search. But if there's no one searching for petitions about X, right, then it's almost impossible to get traffic that way, because there's no one to capture almost, right? Yeah, and then there's the whole AdWords thing is essentially paying for placement in those Google search results.
Yeah, thanks. I agree with you. There must be not a great amount of people searching for signing petitions, but we were thinking that this could be interesting for notoriety or that our petition platform is more known than others like change.org or things like that. Because, for instance, we had a very big petition against an airport in France. And when you were searching for this airport plus petition, our page was, I think, the third result. And we had other petitions before, but they were really little petition with very little signers, but still we were on the first petition to be sorted out, and we were wondering if this could help. But yeah, I agree that that's a very specific petition and circumstances, and people are not going to search a lot for this. So yeah,
I think that rather than like, the other thing that I would say on that sort of search rank question is that it's like a complicated topic, and that like probably the biggest thing that you can do in general is driving PR and generating news stories about your campaigns, because that like those news sources then have really good search authority. And those links from those news sources to your platform will sort of confer search authority to your platform. I mean, I guess the other thing especially for a thing like where you are at Greenpeace, is like that you have like the Greenpeace domain has enormous search weight, and so as much as you can interlink with the rest of Greenpeace, that feels, or have links from the Greenpeace domain, feels useful, even though I think you're operating on a different subdomain than greenpeace.org. Should we?
Thanks. Yeah.
Chrissy?
Oh no, I was just going to ask if anyone else had questions or like things that they're trying or anything like that.
Yeah, I mean, I can speak a little bit. I think within Color of Change, we're still kind of evolving on where Control Shift fits into our organizing structure. But I think we've kind of moved away from trying to be like the central hub for all people doing petitions, because there is such a saturated market, and instead leveraging Control Shift more as a tool for our on-the-ground organizers to give local leaders opportunities to engage on issues that maybe we as a brand are not taking on fully. So we use it in our trainings with local leaders, with local volunteers, so that they are then like given guidance for how to create a petition, and then how to take that petition into action and like organize their own movements. So it's very much like it's a very boutique model with an expansive platform right now. And we're still kind of figuring out if that works, and like how to potentially expand it, and ways to complicate our own internal usage of the tool in an effective way.
That's super interesting for us to hear. I mean, how are you handling the so the trainings that you're doing with activists, is this a kind of a reaching out to small groups and kind of doing live stuff with them, or are you trying to get resources and other ways to kind of repeat and rinse and repeat it?
Yeah. So right now it's primarily within our own field models. We have a set of field organizers who work regionally throughout the United States and have their own kind of like local, smaller groups that they work with. So they are essentially distributed organizing, but guided by a regional organizer who is a COC staff person. And that COC staff person then like runs trainings with the local leaders and their own small groups on a regular basis, and like checks in with them on their progress, talks to them about strategy. So it's still kind of like within our own organizational hub. It's more like we are creating distributed organizers and training them. Less that we are working with established collaborative organizations primarily.
Thanks, Jay.
Yeah, I would say that we're kind of in a similar position. We've been trying to figure out where this platform fits both within our organizing, but also who holds it within our organization. So I've held it for the past few years as I've moved from various teams, none of which are on the organizing side. So we've been trying to bring in more of our organizers to actually start using this tool. We do have a couple of organizers who are really excited, and I would say do some trainings with the young people that they work with, who then go on to start petitions, and they support them through that. So I'm really excited about some of these additional features that are coming out, and what that could mean. Yeah, and I think we're just trying to figure out how to use some of the additional features. So we've only used the petition. We've looked at using the maps before during one of our events. And we're kind of gearing up towards something, and then COVID happened. And so a lot of our in-person stuff kind of just stopped. And so we're hoping to launch a Discord channel later this year, which will funnel people into an action. So on the Discord, they'll be planning and doing lots of things. And then we're hoping to funnel them towards doing campaigns, doing various things using this platform. Now that we've gone a bit more digital than we were, I would say, back in 2019.
Awesome. Yeah. Anyone else have any tips or any challenges?
Christy and I brainstormed a whole list of petition starting tips, which we've only gone through one of. And so regardless, we will send this out at the end of this call, like our giant list of brainstormed tactics that we've seen people use for generating petition starts.
Yeah, I just didn't want to be completely silent, but I wanted to say that because of lack of capacity, we've like mainly been just using the platform for existing campaigns that were already running before, like, already for some years. And so the people already knew how to use the platform, and now we're going to like refocus our efforts on distributed organizing. So it's kind of nice to have also like this big update. And I have not had a chance to really dive in to figure out even what I should fix before Monday so yeah, it's not, I would say we're lucky in quotation marks, because I don't think it's an emergency that it all be fixed before Monday, since the English speaking stuff is the most often used one, but we're going to definitely need to clean up the platform to kind of give it a new rollout in the upcoming half a year, I suppose.
Thank you. Yeah, well, thank you all. Yeah, so should we talk through some of the other ones, Nathan? Do you have ones that you want to pull from our big long list? Since I don't think we have the time to go through the entire big long list.
Yeah, we will send this whole brainstorm that we did last night out. But it's like, if I'm just like skimming through this list. So some things I think I've seen other organizations do are they're trying to like generate petitions, is like really approaching it as an organizing challenge, and like trying to find people who are in this like moment where they are experiencing something where they are moved to action. An organization that we do a bunch of work with called coworker.org in the US does a lot of, they have Tim on their team replies on Twitter to people who are tweeting about workplace issues, or especially people who are experiencing an issue in their own workplace, saying like, we're here, basically we're here to help, we're here to support you, here are resources, and then one of the resources is launching a campaign. And I think that that's how they find a lot of people who are in this sort of activated moment of experiencing a crisis at work. And then,
sorry, just to stick on that point a second longer, it's also like, I think that what makes that work well for them is like, it's not just like, hey, we have a petition platform, come here, but like also they talk about the ways that the coworker team can help solve or help them, figure out a path forward with their issue, or provide like expert help as they try to campaign on this issue. So yeah, it's a series of things that they can do to help, and then one of them is helping with the
yeah, I
petition
think
side.
it's very much not a transactional please,
Yeah.
or a copy pasted thing. It's like engaging with people about what they're talking about on Twitter. So I've seen that work. I feel like there's a set of organizations who are using like a Rolodex approach, where there's a set of issues that are coming up where they don't have staff capacity to campaign on all of them, but they know lots of other people, maybe people who are working professionally as organizers, but not on this issue area, but like, oh, we happen to know that person X is passionate about this topic that just came up in the news, and just doing a lot of outreach and making asks of people. And similarly, using the Rolodex of electeds. So I think that this is a trickier issue depending on your political context and legal context, and like what sort of an organization you are. But asking electeds to start petitions can be on issues that elected is working on in their official capacity, can be a strategy depending on your context. Doing a lot of outreach to people who've previously started petitions to get them to start more. What I've just said a whole bunch of things. Christy, grab one from this list.
Yeah, I guess in terms of sort of like broader recruitment, some things that I think are interesting, and also like if you're not already doing them, they're really easy to implement. So they're sort of an easy value add. So one is just a lot of our organizations that are getting a lot of new campaigners, like they'll just always have this, start a campaign ask in pretty much any email they send. So it's always an option of, we're talking about this main campaign that our organization is running that our staff are working really hard on. And then at the very end, it'll say like, we really care about this issue. If there are issues you really care about, here's how you can get started on our distributed platform. And that can be a good way of just making sure that people have this in mind, even if they don't have an issue, that they definitely want to start a campaign on today, just sort of getting it in their head that like, if I do in the future have an issue, Organize For or GSA Network or TUC or whomever is like going to be the person who I should start this campaign with, because they're doing issues or they're doing campaigning in the areas that I care about, and they have this campaign available. And so that's one thing. And I think that also sort of modeling your existing campaigns, I think that's something that often, maybe not often, but some organizations will sort of, they'll have really great campaigns that get started, and then they'll be like, yay, we had a great campaign and that's the end of it and lovely. But they don't sort of model that campaign back to their existing supporters to say, Jane Smith created this campaign on our platform, and here's what she did next, and here's how she won. And hey, she's just a regular supporter like you. Here's how you can get started on our platform, and here's how you can create that campaign. And really making it clear that like regular people can do this. We're going to support you, but it's totally possible for you to do this on your own, can be really powerful in making your supporters think through, oh, hey, I could be an organizer in my community, and there are issues that I care about.
On that modeling thing, like especially the emails that you send asking people to sign petitions that are created by members, like making it clear in that email, like this person created an email, please sign it. Here's our standard, like please sign this petition sort of ask, but then following up with that so that folks know that they can do the same thing that this person that they are being asked to sign a petition from just did.
Yeah. And the other email one that I like, because it's a little bit sneaky and I just find it really interesting. So we have some organizations that will send out regular like surveys to their members on either like, hey, this issue is in the news in our issue area. Should we be campaigning on it? What do you think? Yes or no? Or like, hey, we were thinking about starting to do some campaigns in this area. Like scale of 1 to 10, how much do you care about it? And then if you say either yes, we should be working on it, or I care more than like number 7 on that 1 to 10 scale, you'll immediately get asked like, great, we care about it too. Why don't you create a campaign on it? And I just love how like slightly sneaky it is, but I think it's actually powerful, and it will get people to actually, at least some of them will actually create campaigns. And especially if it's like a really focused issue that you're doing this on, or like a really specific issue area, that can also be something that you could potentially stick into like a landing page so that you have all of those campaigns together. It'll also be a landing page for you to send people to, people who are maybe 5s and above on that 1 through 10, how much do I care scale. You can say like, you said you cared about this thing, you didn't decide to create a petition, but other people did. And like, here's a landing page where you can see those campaigns and take action and get more involved in the campaigning. Also, then you can, know that that portion of your list, you should send updates about whatever that specific issue was that you just asked about. So it sort of helps in multiple ways and is sneaky in ways that I find really fun. So yeah, that's a tactic that some organizations will use. That works really interesting, or works really well. Yeah, and I think that the other thing I would say that I feel like many of you are already doing, but I think you could potentially do more, and is also just really useful, is like leaning on your partners. So if there are other organizations who are working in your space who are doing good work, and you want to ask them to create petitions on the platform, that can be really useful in both getting more eyes on the platform as they are sending their campaign to their existing supporters who may not already be on your list. It can also help with getting some like higher quality campaigns on the platform. It can also help with modeling what these campaigns look like, because you'll have built-in examples of, this is a great petition that's doing really well, here's what's good about it, and sort of making people understand that they can create campaigns like that. I'm realizing that we literally have like 60 seconds or less left. So we will send this list, but if anyone has final thoughts, final questions, final things they want to share, feel free to jump in. Otherwise, I'm going to leave it to Nathan to do the sign off.
No, just a thank you, Christy, for that one about the modeling thing. So we will do a kind of a roundup of success campaigns.
Yeah.
And you could do one like paragraph, photo, you could do one. That gives us a little bump every now and then. But actually, that's a nicer thing, digging into an individual campaign and giving people a bit more of a sense of what they're letting themselves into. That would, we'll try that one. Thank you.
Yeah, and I think also like beyond the email, you could also spin, as you're doing that writing, like that could become, a help document or a blog post or something that you can also point people to if they're like, I don't know what to do next. You can be like, well, this campaign was super successful and we've already written it. So we don't have to write a new response for you.
I think that this is there is like a set of organizations that we've worked with that have done things where they have one petition starter who say, so in the UK, 38 Degrees, who John will know, was campaigning a few years ago on library funding cuts. And they had, one person who at one local council had saved one library, and then just like, how do we like find, this is like, clearly there's like 1,000 of these that should be saved. And like, how do we like then like find the other people who want to save their local library? And like, I think that that's the other thing that is like modeling those campaign wins.
Yeah, we're doing that with bus services at the moment locally, and get a couple of wins, and then you can cookie cutter the campaign in different regions. It's quite nice.
Yeah, it's something that we see, like we've seen that actually with not bus services, but train services in Sweden, like the same exact thing, where they had that one campaign that they were able to then model and then use it for other municipalities as well. Yeah. Awesome. Well, thank you all so very much for joining, and definitely let us know if you have questions or if you have tests you want to run, or if you have any like best tips you want to share with the broader audience of folks. Definitely feel free to get in touch. And yeah, we're really excited to roll out these updated screens. please remember that we're going to roll it out on Monday. So if you want to make changes, please do it before then. And yeah, if you have any questions or if you need any help, for those of you who mentioned that you're thinking about relaunching, like definitely feel free to get in touch as you think through next strategies or you think through the ways that you want to roll out different changes to the platform or to your work with supporters. We're always here to help. So don't be strangers.
Yeah, I just want to echo that both Christy and I are always here to support with either strategy help or software tech help, in my case, more than
Yes,
Christy's
definitely
strategy help.
Nathan's case more than mine. If you ask me the super tech questions, they're just going to go to Nathan anyway, but you can still send them to me first if you'd like. Awesome. Yeah. Well, thank you all so much and have a good rest of your day.
Thank you.
Thanks, y'all.
Bye.
Thanks, bye.